From homeless to millionaire, the journey of a black man inspired by Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Jamal's life was a storm, relentless, unforgiving, and loud. For years, he had slept under bridges, the cold biting through every thread of his worn-out jacket, the city's neon lights blurring into a crawling nightmare. Yet, here he was, standing on the edge of $1 million deal that could change everything. No one who saw him now could guess the nights he spent without food or shelter. The city roared around him, sirens wailing, people shouting protests in the streets, flags waving like fire. Political unrest colored the skyline, smoke rising over glass towers where power lived. Jamal's mind raced. His story wasn't just survival, it was defiance. He wore the scars of broken promises and broken dreams, but also the fire that burned from watching Elon Musk shoot for the stars and Donald Trump build empires from dust. Tonight, rain clawed at the concrete as Jamal sifted through a box. The letter hinted at something impossible. A tie to a powerful political figure he thought had nothing to do with him. A connection so shocking it could unravel the empire he was just about to build. His heart slammed. The air around him thickened, heavy with tension. Outside, the city's chaos seemed miles away. But inside his room, shadows stretched like the weight of his past. Should he protect the life he clawed back, or chase the truth screaming from that envelope? Every breath felt sharp, every muscle knotting tighter. The door creaked. Maya stepped in, a journalist with a gaze like an untamed fire. Her eyes burned with questions and suspicion. Her voice clipped but fierce. "What's the deal, Jamal? What are you hiding?" she demanded, standing tall amid the scattered papers and rainy gloom. Jamal's jaw clenched. "And what if I don't want the truth to come out?" His voice was low, urgent. Neither trusted the other, yet both hung on the same fragile thread of ambition and secrets. Outside, whispers started to stir. "Did you hear? Jamal might have some serious connections. They say Maya's digging deep, and it's messy." Their words floated up like echoes through the storm. Together, Jamal and Maya found themselves caught in a web thicker than the city's smog. Lies, power, and shadows crawling from the corners. Each revelation cut deeper. Each step forward made the stakes spike higher. Jamal's hands shook, the letter burning a hole in his pocket. Could he rewrite his fate? Or was his past a chain he'd never break? As the rain drummed on, the city held its breath, and so did he. What secret does that letter hold? And how far will Jamal go for the truth? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! Jamal's heart raced, the letter still burning in his pocket. Maya stood still as if the air had thickened around them. Her fierce gaze held questions like daggers. "So what's the plan, Jamal?" He opened his mouth to speak, but the words sputtered out like a car choking on gas. Suddenly, loud banging shattered the tense silence. A group of masked men burst into the room, breaking the door off its hinges. They swarmed around Maya and Jamal, eyes glinting with malice. "Get on the ground!" one shouted, his voice sharp and cold. Panic clawed at Jamal's throat. He and Maya dropped to their knees, hands raised. The air turned electric with tension, each heartbeat thumping in his ears. What had just turned from a discussion about ambition to a life-threatening situation? This wasn't supposed to happen. Not now, not when he was so close. "Where is it?" another masked man demanded, eyes narrowed, scanning the room for signs of anything valuable, anything that could tie Jamal to the powerful political figure mentioned in the letter. "We know you have something." Jamal's mind spun. He felt trapped between the past he fought so hard to escape and a frightening future that now loomed above him. Who were these people? What did they want? The thought of the letter felt like a fire in his pocket. Was it worth the danger it had now brought? Maya looked at him, her expression shifting from defiance to fear. "This is about the letter, isn't it?" she whispered, the realization dawning. Her eyes widened as she connected the dots. "Shut up!" the first man barked, slapping her. The sound echoed sharp and cruel. Jamal felt a sudden surge of rage mixed with despair. His past flashed before his eyes. The cruel streets, the missed opportunities, the desperation. Suddenly, everything was at stake. Without thinking, driven by instinct, Jamal jumped up. "Wait!" he shouted, surprising himself. "I don't have what you think." "What? You don't know what you're doing." "Ho!" The masked men paused. Jamal took a shaky breath. What if this was his chance? I can help you." The leader stepped closer, eyes cautious. "Help us how?" I can get you what you need. Just don't hurt us." The silence crept in, thick and heavy. Jamal's mind raced. He was bargaining with danger, but the letter, whatever it contained, held more value than his life or Maya's, or so it seemed. Before anyone could respond, a loud crash filtered in from outside. A massive explosion rocked the building, sending debris flying. Jamal's eyes widened in horror as the ceiling above them collapsed, shards of wood and concrete tumbling down. Dust filled the air, choking him, wrapping around him like a dark shroud. He grabbed Maya, pulling her to the side, but the masked men weren't so lucky. They stumbled, disoriented, as the chaos erupted. Jamal could barely breathe. This was madness. As the dust settled through the haze, Jamal saw one man, injured and struggling. The others lay scattered, limbs twisted, a dramatic silence overtaking the chaos. The adrenaline surged through him. This wasn't just about ambition anymore. Jamal looked at Maya, who was ready to flee. "We have to go," he yelled, knowing they had a limited window of safety. But they couldn't leave without knowing the truth about that letter. A flicker caught his eye. The leader, somehow still conscious, pointed a shaky finger at Jamal. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." The weight of the words crashed around him. What did that mean? What kind of secret had he stumbled upon? As they surged out into the rain-soaked streets, the storm raged on, carrying with it the echoes of shattered lives and secrets yet to be uncovered. And Jamal knew they were just at the beginning of a nightmare beyond his wildest fears. Jamal felt the weight of that letter in his pocket, throbbing like a heartbeat. His pulse raced. What if I don't want the truth to come out? He had tossed the words at Maya like a challenge. But now they felt feeble in the dampened air. The room held a tension thicker than fog, and he could sense her growing impatience. "Everything has a price, Jamal," she replied, her tone a snapshot of unpredictability. "But if you don't share what you know, it could cost you everything you fought for." Silence fell. They both stared at the crumpled envelope. The secret really hanging between them, ready to ignite. Jamal dug his fingers into the old, frayed couch, feeling its ripped edges like the jagged paths of his own life. Secrets could tear lives apart, or stitch them back together with a golden thread. But which would this be? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the street. It shattered their standoff. They rushed to the window, peering through the downpour. A crowd surged, panic in every face. Shouts drowned out the rain, swelling like a beast. Jamal's heart sank. What now? Then it happened. A flash, then darkness. The lights in the entire building flickered and went out, leaving them in a choking black void. Outside, flashes burst in the air. Gunfire? No, it was more explosive. A riot. Jamal's breath hitched. "We need to get out of here!" he barked. Maya grabbed his arm, her face lit only by the sudden illumination of a police car's strobe lights rallying closer. "Wait, is this about the letter?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. "What's happening, Jamal?" But he didn't answer. Instead, instinct took over. He yanked Maya toward the door. They stumbled into the corridor. The air, thick with tension, brushed against him, wrapping around his throat like a choking vine. Rushing down the stairs, they could hear chaos through the walls. Screams mingled with bursts of firecrackers, people running, yelling. Jamal gripped Maya's hand as they broke into the night, just as the sky tore open with neon whispers from the conflict below. There it was, a flash of chaos. Flames licking the edges of nearby trash dumpsters illuminated anguished faces. A sudden explosion erupted from a nearby police barricade, sending shards of glass flying into the air. "Jamal!" Maya shouted, pulling him closer. "We have to find out if you're connected to this. What was in that letter?" Before he could respond, a figure broke loose from the crowd. A man, wild-eyed and frantic, barreled towards them. Jamal's chest tightened as he recognized him. Liam, his old friend from the streets. But Liam was not just frantic. He was soaked in blood. "Jamal! They're coming for you!" Liam gasped, his voice trembling with terror. "They found out! You've got to—" A gunshot cracked through the air. Liam fell, collapsing like a marionette cut loose from its strings. Jamal's world exploded in a single heartbeat. He stood there, frozen. Maya's scream pierced the chaos, and the rain fell heavier, washing away everything. In that moment, something inside Jamal shattered. The letter in his pocket felt like a damning weight. Who had he crossed? What had he unleashed? "Run!" Maya screamed, pulling him back, but Jamal couldn't move. All he could see was Liam's lifeless eyes, empty but screaming with questions. Had he summoned this torrent? Was he the architect of his own downfall? The city felt like it was collapsing, shadows twisting darker, and the truth wrapped tighter around him, smothering his breath. "No, no," he whispered, his stomach churning. This can't be happening. Who was the powerful figure behind the letter? And who was really after him? As Jamal's mind twisted with panic and fear, the reality of his choices pressed heavily. Before he could formulate a plan, darkness roared around him, and they were swept into the night, deeper into the chaos, where answers lay hidden beneath a storm of uncertainty. Jamal stood there, paralyzed. The weight of Liam's lifeless body felt like a stone in his chest. Anguish clawed at him, the kind that made breathing feel heavy and hard. Maya tugged on his arm, panic spilling from her wide eyes. "We need to move," she cried, but he could barely hear her over the pounding of his heart. They ran, adrenaline pumping through their veins, pulling them down dark alleys littered with broken glass and debris. The chaos roared behind them, the explosion still echoing in his head like a haunting refrain. Jamal's thoughts raced. Who had just been killed? Why was he at the center of this storm? And where could they possibly go next? As they turned the corner, Jamal skidded to a halt. Something pulled him back. The weight of that letter. It festered in his pocket. A secret that was now drenched in blood. "Maya, we can't keep running. I need to know what's going on," he gasped, his voice just above a whisper. "Then open it," she demanded, urgency splitting her tone. "We can't just pray it goes away." Sweat trickled down his forehead. Would that letter really answer everything? As he pulled it out, the rain drummed against the pavement like an angry heartbeat. He ripped the envelope open, the smell of aged paper flooding his senses. But before he could read it, there was another explosion. A firework? No, the sound tratado del Reina Fundación Benito de ellos. Flamas flicaron en el distante, iluminaron el caos, transformaron la oscuridad ante terroríficas formas. Jamal's manos temblaban como desemprendía la letra. Las palabras se perdían en un segundo. Después, dio impresionante señal del nombre. Su respiración se volvió vacía. Él es el mismo, Ferent su rayo lequinacida, su hermano, Mitchell. Jamal, ¿qué nos dice? Maya presionada, su voz con miedo. Le pasó la letra con amedo. It can't be. It felt like the ground had slipped beneath him. Mitchell was supposed to be a thing of the past. How could a man once lost to violence and crime suddenly reemerge in such a dangerous way? Maya's eyes widened as she read, "You're tied to him? This changes everything." Before he could respond, a guttural scream ripped through the air. It wasn't just any scream. It was familiar and gut-wrenching. Jamal's stomach dropped as he turned to see a figure stumbling through the haze, clutching a bloodied arm. It was Mitchell, alive but in chaos. "Jamal?" His brother's voice rang out, filled with pain and desperation. Fear surged through Jamal. He felt a pull toward his brother, but also a fear of what that connection could mean now. "What are you doing here?" he shouted, his voice bursting with a mix of anger and relief. Mitchell stumbled closer, wild eyes darting around. "They're after you! They know everything!" I tried to stop them, but in that moment, a vehicle rammed down the street. Headlights cutting through the night like knives. Without thinking, Jamal grabbed Maya's arm. "We have to hide now!" Their escape was too close to being discovered. But there was something more. The connection between them. Jamal, Mitchell, Maya. It felt tighter than anything before. Shadows danced in the lights of the van as figures emerged, cloaked in darkness. "Why are you hiding?" one voice called out, smooth but edged with danger. Jamal froze. A pang of recognition slit through him. "It's them." Mitchell's face paled. "You don't know what you're playing with. It's bigger than us. You've stirred something that's been buried for too long." The gravity of his brother's words hit harder than any explosion. What had Jamal really unleashed? What was the truth behind that letter? As the reality of their delicate situation pressed down around him, chaos erupted again. A loud bang, and then the world changed. Sirens blared. The fire in the distance exploded. Smoke curled into the air, swirling like a beast awakened from slumber. "Maya, we have to—" But before he could finish, something shifted in the atmosphere. An unmistakable tension, followed by the screech of tires. The pieces were falling in place, all leading to one devastating realization. Everything he thought he understood was built on lies, and the truth was deadlier than he could have ever imagined. Where did their loyalties lie? Would they stand together, or would the secrets tear them apart? The night stretched out before them, filled with unanswered questions and volatile possibilities. Jamal's breath caught in his throat, the letter still warm against his skin. Maya's piercing gaze felt like a spotlight burning through his layers of pretense. "What's the deal, Jamal? What are you hiding?" she pressed, her voice laced with urgency now. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words evaporated. Outside, a clap of thunder shook the air, cutting through the tension. Just then, a deafening crash echoed through the building. The lights flickered, then went out, plunging the room into darkness. A moment of silence hung heavy before chaos exploded outside. Jamal's heart raced. What was that? He stepped toward the window, panic clawing at his chest. Maya grabbed his arm. "Stay away from there!" But he couldn't help it. Curiosity drew him in. ... Peering through the grimy glass, he saw a crowd gather below. People pointing, shouting, faces twisted in shock. "What's going on?" he muttered, straining to see. Then he caught sight of it. A vehicle, overturned, smoke curling into the night sky. The unmistakable logo of a big corporation glinted in the faint light. "Jamal, we need to—" Maya started, but her words were drowned out by a series of explosions in the distance. The room felt small and closing in, walls pressing against him. Then, without warning, the building trembled beneath the impact of heavy footsteps. A loud pounding echoed from the door. "Jamal, open up!" "Who is it?" he shouted, the chaos outside suddenly feeling all too near. "Federal agents, we need to talk to you." A gut punch of dread settled in Jamal's belly. He turned to Maya, their eyes locking in a moment thick with unspoken fear. The truth was just within reach, and now everything was spiraling. "What do they want?" Maya whispered, her face pale. Before he could answer, the door burst open, a group of agents flooding in like shadows. They were suits, crisp and cold, eyes scanning the room with ruthless precision. "Jamal Carter," one of them barked, stepping forward. The badge on his chest gleamed like a knife. Panic dulled Jamal's senses. "Yes, that's me," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The agent took a step closer. "You need to come with us. It's about your past and the political connections you've been hiding. There are answers that could change everything." Jamal's mind whirled. The letter, the deal, everything he fought for hung by a thread. Suddenly, another loud crash thundered outside, rattling the windows, filling the air with a sharp crackle. Dust and debris drifted in through the broken glass. Jamal thought he felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "Now!" the agent shouted, urgency breaking through the fear. Maya's grip tightened on Jamal's arm, her voice trembling. "Don't go with them. You don't know what they want. This is all connected." Jamal's heart raced like a drum. His pulse drummed in his ears. "But I can't just... What if they're lying?" Maya insisted, her eyes wide with desperation. "What if this is where it ends?" He froze. The heavy thud of reality crashed upon him. Outside, the crowd was growing, chaos swirling like a tempest. Everything he had fought for danced on a knife's edge. The letter burned in his pocket. Every word, now a chain, binding him to choices he never meant to make. His past, tangled in shadows, threatened to pull him back. What's it gonna be, Jamal? The truth or the deal? And just then, in the thick of night and confusion, he heard something he never expected. A cry, sharp and familiar, screaming from the depths of the chaos outside. And it carried his name. Jamal's breath caught once more. What had he really gotten himself into? As the world around him spun further out of control, he was left standing at a precipice, ready to dive into secrets even darker than he had ever imagined. The rain drummed fiercely against the window, a backdrop to the storm inside Jamal's chest. Maya stood, arms crossed, fire in her gaze. "What's the deal, Jamal? What are you hiding?" The words hung like a fog, thick and pressing. Something inside him snapped. "I can't just hand over my life's work," he shot back, eyes darting to the door. Fear clawed at him. Keeping secrets felt like living in chains. He had fought too hard. But that letter, it had power. A dangerous power. And then, the world outside cracked open with a deafening bang. Glass shattered. Shouts erupted. Jamal's heart went cold. Were they coming for him? Maya whipped around as the chaos escalated outside. What the hell was that? Her voice trembled, and for a moment their conflict faded amid the confusion. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. Jamal grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her towards the window. "Look!" The street below swarmed with people, but not just protesters. A line of black SUVs barreled down the road, tires screeching. The lead vehicle skidded to a stop, and a figure stepped out, tall and imposing. He was flanked by guards, their expressions grim and watchful. Jamal's throat tightened. He knew that man. "Is that—" Maya whispered, but trailed off, her eyes wide. "Yeah, that's Marcus, my father." The revelation struck him like cold water, stealing his breath. He had spent years trying to bury that name, to escape the shadows of a man he'd never wanted to be like. The city, the deal, everything now hung by a fraying thread. He was the son of a man whose influence could crush enemies and create worlds. Maya's surprise twisted into skepticism. You never mentioned him before. I didn't want to. Jamal felt hot blood rush to his cheeks. His past was littered with hatred. He's the last person I want in my life right now. But Jamal was trapped. That letter held a connection to Marcus, and it could bring everything crashing down. Or build a new empire, one that intrigued Maya, despite her doubts. Suddenly, a barrage of footsteps thundered up the stairs. Panic flared in Jamal's chest. What do they want? He breathed, glancing toward the door. It doesn't matter, Maya replied, determination flooding her voice. We need to find out what that letter says. It could change everything. Before he could respond, someone pounded on the door. Then, with a swift motion, it buckled under impact. The chaos spilled into the room. A group of men, their faces hidden beneath dark masks, stormed in, eyes gleaming with purpose. Jamal's heart raced as they pointed toward him. Jamal Turner, come with us! The world spun. It wasn't just about surviving the sidewalks anymore. It was about facing his past head on. Somehow, he was entwined in something far larger than a simple deal. This was his legacy. But then, a flash of anger ignited in Jamal's mind, tearing through his confusion. No! I won't go with you! His voice shouted despite the tightening grip of fear. And then he remembered the envelope, forgotten in his pocket. Its weight suddenly lighter than everything crumbling around him. What connection did it really hold? The masked men advanced. Maya's eyes darted between them and Jamal. Uncertainty painted across her features. Jamal, we can't let them take you. Outside, the city continued its tempest, oblivious. But for Jamal and Maya, the truth had become the heart of the storm. A storm that could either lift them to the skies or bury everything in darkness. Run, he yelled, grabbing her hand. And as they dashed toward the window, the night held its breath, as if waiting for a single spark to ignite the impending explosion of secrets yet to be revealed. Jamal's heart raced. The letter's weight felt heavier, burning against his chest. Maya stood there, questioning him, but all he could hear was the pounding rain, tapping like a frantic reminder of what was at stake. He inhaled sharply, the air thick with uncertainty. Jamal, you need to trust me, she urged, her brow furrowed in genuine concern. But trust didn't come easy, not after everything he'd gone through. Secrets had their own gravity, pulling him in every direction. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the street below. Glass shattering, followed by screams. They both jolted, eyes wide. The chaos outside swallowed their attention. A crowd had gathered, voices rising in panic. What now? Jamal rushed to the window, worry twisting in his gut. What he saw left him breathless. A van, black and ominous, had plowed into a vendor's cart. People scattered, some shouting for help, others filming on their phones. Jamal's heart sank. He had seen this before. In the desperation that colored the city he knew. Something deep inside him stirred. A call to act. "Stay here," he barked at Maya and dashed out before she could protest. He plunged into the tumult, dodging onlookers and debris. The air buzzed with disbelief, and every step felt like a leap back to his past, running, fighting to survive. He reached the scene, where bystanders were pulling a man from beneath the twisted cart. It was a vendor. His face pale, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. Panic thickened the air. Jamal knelt beside the man, his hands shaking as he checked for injuries. Just then, a scream rang out from the crowd, sharp and urgent. "Look, the driver! Get the driver!" a voice yelled, pointing. Jamal turned, rising to see the driver stumble out of the van. His heart dropped. It was someone he recognized, a local political figure, someone with influence and connections that could make or break lives. Panic twisted into a knot in Jamal's stomach. The crowd surged, anger boiling over. "How could you? You're supposed to protect us!" one woman shouted, her face contorted in rage. The driver, wide-eyed and disoriented, glanced around. He caught Jamal's gaze, and for a moment, time froze. It was as if a silent recognition passed between them. Jamal's thoughts raced. This figure held the key to opportunities he thought were far away. This man could be the bridge to wealth, power, and change. But the truth in the envelope burned for answers, and the events unfolding were too big to ignore. Then disaster struck. A loud bang resonated, followed by the horrifying sound of crashing metal. Another vehicle, a police van this time, barreled into the scene, responding to the chaos. Officers spilled out, shoving people aside to get to the driver. Fear gripped Jamal as a commotion erupted, every voice drowning in confusion. "Stay back!" an officer shouted, but the crowd pressed forward, demanding accountability. Jamal's eyes darted between the injured vendor and the driver, who now looked like a cornered animal, eyes wild with panic. And then it happened. An officer tackled the driver, a gun unsheathed, and the noise became deafening. A horrifying silence fell, and Jamal felt a lump rise in his throat. Everything was spiraling. The letter in his pocket felt like a ticking bomb waiting to explode. He stood frozen, the edges of his world blurring. Was he going to chase the truth that could ruin his chances, or was he watching everything he fought for slip away? As the chaos unfolded, he caught Maya's eye across the street, her expression a mix of fear and resolve. She raised her phone, capturing every moment. What was she planning? Why was her gaze so intense? In that electrifying moment, Jamal realized every choice he made mattered now more than ever. But as the crowd surged and tension thickened, he couldn't shake the feeling that something much darker lurked in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled. What price would he pay for the truth? And in the storm that was building, who would emerge unscathed? The city felt like it was holding its breath, just like him. Jamal stood frozen, the weight of the letter pressing against him, his thoughts swirling like chaos outside. Every second felt thick, heavy with danger. Suddenly, the evening cracked open with the sirens of App. Tension rose. What was next? He caught Maya's eye across the street, her expression a mixture of alarm and determination. She raised her phone, capturing the chaos while he scrambled to gather his thoughts. Lives felt like they were on the line. But then, Another explosion echoed, ringing through the crowd like a warning bell. It was all happening too fast. Then, everything changed in an instant. The driver of the overturned vehicle stumbled toward them, face smeared with blood. Fear shimmering in his eyes. "Get away! They're coming!" he shouted, pointing at something behind Jamal. Jamal didn't turn. He couldn't. Sweat trickled down his back as the urgency transformed into dread. The crowd swelled around them, confusion unraveling into a frenzy. But at that moment, he felt it. Someone behind him. The air shifted, a low hum of tension pulsating in the space. He glanced at Maya, whose face was a kaleidoscope of fear and concern. But then he saw it. An unmarked van bursting through the throng of people, tires screeching, headlights blinding. It plowed toward them, chaos erupting in its wake. Jamal felt his stomach drop, as if he'd just missed a step on a staircase. "Maya, we have to—" Bam! The van's sliding side door swung open, and out rushed masked men, brandishing weapons like harbingers of doom. Panic escalated as screams ricocheted off the buildings. Jamal instinctively reached for Maya, but before he could grab her, something far more shocking happened. A figure emerged from the shadows behind him, a woman cloaked in darkness, with an aura of dominance that silenced the screams. The crowd parted as she stepped forward, pushing through. Jamal's eyes widened. The woman looked familiar. No, it couldn't be. His heart pounded as the truth clawed at his mind. "Maya!" he gasped, recognition crashing over him like a tidal wave. That's my mother!" Maya's expression shifted, her mouth falling open in disbelief. "What?" she whispered, incredulity lacing her tone. But Jamal could only stare. There she stood, the woman who had been lost to him for years. The enigma of his childhood, the missing piece of his past. How? Why was she here? His mind raced with a storm of conflicting emotions. Devastation battled hope. The unanswered questions screamed in his heart. What was she doing here? Why was she with these people? "Jamal!" she called, her voice a mix of authority and desperation. "Trust me! You need to come with me now!" The urgency in her tone felt like an electric jolt. Outside, the masked men continued to advance, weapons drawn. Tension spiraling like a clock counting down to an inevitable explosion. Jamal's heart lurched in fear, torn between two worlds, the one he fought to build, and the other that held secrets dark enough to shatter everything. "Maya, you don't understand. I don't know who she is anymore." His voice cracked, emotion boiling beneath the surface. The chaos swirled around him, yelling and screaming, blending into a twisted symphony. Then, suddenly, the tension ruptured as one of the masked men lunged forward, eyes fixed on Jamal. "Get down!" Everything slowed. In that moment, time felt unreal. The frame of his mother flickered like an old film reel, full of life, yet empty all at once. Secrets, lies, they flooded back, unearthing every moment he'd tried to forget. Just as the man charged, his mother flung herself in front of Jamal. "No!" she screamed, and in that split second, chaos collided with clarity. Gunfire erupted, ringing in Jamal's ears, drowning out everything. He felt the ground shift beneath him as shock ricocheted through his body. His heart pounding against the confines of his chest. The night exploded, and his world splintered into shards of confusion and devastating truth. What had just happened? Who had she become? The air thickened with betrayal and fear. The world shrieked, and in the unfolding shadow of truth, Jamal knew nothing would ever be the same. Jamal felt the world collapse around him, the sound of gunfire ringing in his ears like a death knell. He stood there, helpless, his heart pounding as his mother threw herself protectively in front of him. Time slowed. The urgency of the moment intensified, pulling tightly against his chest. Then, everything exploded in a whirlwind of chaos. The shot rang out, louder than anything he had ever heard. A moment of crushing silence wrapped around him. Jamal's breath hitched. He couldn't look. He wanted to scream, but no sound came. When he finally summoned the courage to open his eyes, the sight burned into his memory. A crimson halo spreading across her white blouse as she crumpled to the ground. "Mom!" The word tore from his lips, raw and desperate. He dropped to his knees beside her. The crowd gasped collectively, shock curdling the air. Maya edged closer, eyes wide, fear knitting her brows together. The masked men paused, confusion flashing through their ranks. Jamal's world narrowed, only the sound of his own heartbeat reverberating in his ears. His mother lay there, fingers twitching, struggles fading. He couldn't breathe. Everything he had known, the struggle, the fight, shifted in a moment. "Maya, call for help!" he shouted, stifling a sob. His hand shook as he pressed them against the wound, warmth soaking through his fingers. Panic surged within him. "Stay with me, Mom. Just hold on." Her eyes fluttered open, searching. "Jamal," she whispered, voz barely audible, tears pooling his eyes. "Everything is going to be okay. Just focus on me." But his heart sank as the life slowly drained from her gaze. The unmistakable glimmer of fear shadowed her features. Hesitation rippled through the crowd. People started to step back, whispers swirling around them. "That's her son," someone murmured, shock pinching the words. "Maya, do something." Jamal's voice cracked, desperation clawing at his throat. His dream, his life, had all started crumbling around him, and now this moment felt like the final betrayal. But then, in the thick of that heart-wrenching moment, something shifted. Another figure appeared from the dark, a familiar presence cutting through the chaos. It was Liam, blood still staining him, but he moved with fervor, eyes fierce and determined. "Jamal, listen to me," he shouted, pushing through the throng. "Get out of here!" "What? Why? I can't leave her!" Jamal's voice rose higher, fear lacing every word. "Because they're coming for you both," Liam urged, his voice barely contained. "Not just for her. It's you they want." Then suddenly the sound of sirens split the air, growing closer, louder. Officers pouring in, guns drawn, urgency crackling between them. "Get down!" someone yelled, and the chaos erupted again. A cacophony of shouts filled the space. "Mom!" Jamal screamed, clutching her hand, squeezing tighter and tighter. But then, as if time folded, he felt something shift deep within, a sudden knot forming in the pit of his stomach. And then it happened. Through the remnants of confusion, His mother's lips moved, silent words spilling from her mouth. Jamal, there's something I need to tell you. His heart stumbled. What? What is it? But before she could speak, a loud crash reverberated, and the masked figures began to retreat, fear overtaking their earlier bravado. Jamal's breath caught as a new figure stepped into the opening, the silhouette of someone he recognized. It was Marcus, standing tall, eyes ablaze with authority. Enough. The world faded, sounds dulled. He gazed at his mother, confusion twisting like thorns in his mind. Who had she become? Who had Marcus become? Mom, wait! What's going on? But before the words left his mouth, Marcus snapped his gaze to Jamal. You don't know, do you? The words dripped with a mix of disdain and revelation. And then, in an explosive moment of clarity, everything changed. The air around them convulsed with the weight of a terrible truth, weaving darkly through the fragmented pieces of their lives. Jamal felt the ground under him shift. His mother turned to Marcus and smiled, a smile that cut deeper than any revelation. It's time, isn't it? In that instant, the world shifted beneath their feet. Secrets, hidden motives, and betrayals unfurled like curtains drawn back on a stage. Jamal's head spun. What had he stumbled into? Who was his mother really? And what did Marcus know that could change everything? The sirens wailed. The masked figures faltered. The thrust of chaos hung in the balance. And in the piercing silence, everything he thought he knew spun violently out of control. Jamal's heart raced as he knelt beside his mother, the warm blood seeping through his fingers, staining his shirt. The chaos around him felt like it was miles away. "Stay with me, please," he pleaded, tears blurring his vision. His mother looked into his eyes, her breath shallow. "You have to listen to me. Jamal, there's so much you don't know." She struggled against the pain, her voice barely a whisper now. Above them, the masked men hesitated, the chaos in front of them stalling their aggression, eyes glancing nervously as sirens blared closer. "Get back!" an officer shouted, taking control of the scene, while other officers moved to secure the area. Jamal looked up, fear pinching his chest. Would help come in time? "Listen!" She coughed slightly, warmth fading from her face. "You have to find the truth about your father and about us." "Mom, don't talk, just hold on." Tears streamed down his cheeks, his hands shaking. The sirens got louder. Uniformed officers were rushing in, their faces grim. But she gripped his hand tighter, her gaze piercing through the fog of worry that clouded his thoughts. "Promise me." "Promise. You'll dig deeper. They want to silence us. You can't let them." The light in her eyes dimmed, the vibrant energy that always filled the room slipping away. Jamal could feel the world crashing down. "Mom, please, you can't leave me." But the darkness was pressing in, and soon her breathing slowed to a painful halt. The officers moved in, but Jamal was frozen. The heat of anger and despair rolled through him like wildfire. He couldn't just stand by. Not now. Suddenly, Maya was beside him, her expression fierce and resolute. "We have to go, Jamal," she said, urgency surging in her tone. The masked men were regaining their resolve. The danger was still very real. "No, I can't leave her." The chaos boiled. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Around them, tension thickened. Jamal's eyes darted to the figure of Marcus, standing tall and unyielding, fear dancing in his eyes. "Get out!" Marcus shouted, fury flashing. He knew the stakes just as well as Jamal. "You'll get caught in the crossfire!" Jamal's heart raced. He was torn between his mother's wishes and the chaos churning around him. "What do we do?" he shouted, desperation flooding his voice. "Follow me!" Maya grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back of the building. "This is our only chance!" They raced back through the alley, away from the chaos, each step feeling heavier. Jamal glanced back, taking one last look. His mother's lifeless form rested alone, surrounded by chaos. Outside, the storm continued to swirl, rains pouring as they ran. But despite the danger, Jamal felt something flicker inside him. Determination. The letter burned like a beacon in his pocket. He would uncover the truth, no matter what it took. As they turned a corner, finding some shelter, Maya looked into his eyes, searching for understanding. "Jamal, we'll figure this out together. Just don't let their fear stop you." He nodded, breathless with rage and sharp pain cutting through him. "I won't stop, I promise." The fire in his heart ignited anew. The noise faded as they found a moment of silence, each breath filled with the weight of their choices. Jamal took the letra deeper into his pocket, knowing que tanto cargaba la promesa de su futuro. Pero con la incertidumbre adelante, una cosa estaba clara. Habían ignado algo más grande que el miedo, algo vivo y peligroso, una cuesta por la verdad en las sombras. Cuando salieron a hecha la lluvia, Jamal sintió un flicker de esperanza. Incierto, todavía, viento de la tempestad, pero no se volvía atrás. Antes del viaje continuar, un recuerdo pegazado con él, que entendió. Esto no es el fin, sino el comienzo de todo. Si quieres saber dónde Jamal continúa hacia un hacer, hay que inmediato suscribirte. No esperen ni un segundo. Haz piel con este botón al que hace futuimos del valorme en un infinito. Y compártalo instantemente con unos 5 amigos que necesiten que ver esta historia final.